Holy cow. Turn down all the electronics. Make sure the things are working. What in the world is going on? Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. It's Wednesday. It's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, which means you all, the coolest people on the face of this earth, are hanging out. That's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, happy Wednesday.
I hope it's going to be a great time, and I hope you brought your questions because Wednesday evenings is the time where we get to answer lots of questions. But first, the videos need to play and all the stuff needs to turn on. Okay, we're all better now. Thank you. So, yeah, that's...
Stacy says, twinsies.
Yeah, that was not planned.
It was not planned. I didn't realize that until I sat down. I looked at the screen and I was like...
What?
And he's like, what? I was like...
Yeah, so for the record, I've been wearing this shirt all day.
Really? Well, I was at work all day, so I didn't know what you were... Wow.
So now that we've got the record straight, we have the person who wore the shirt all day and the copycat over here. And that's what happened. But that's okay, because they're cool shirts.
Fish nerd, plant nerd.
And that's also kind of true to our inner core being. So
you got it.
I guess it worked out okay in the end. So yeah, tonight we are answering your questions. Hopefully you brought a bunch. I've already seen some really good ones even before the stream started way up here. By the way, Ladyfish, thank you for becoming a prime timer, primate, prime time partner.
Yay.
I hope you enjoy hanging out with all of us crazy fish people. So that video, by the way, went out today, the members video, because we've got stuff going on tomorrow, so I won't be able to do it tomorrow. So you got a day early one. And let's see here. We got Jen, member for 2 months. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for all that you do. I have learned so much from the channel. Well, thank you. Appreciate you being here. That's awesome. That's good to hear. So, yeah, things going on for the week. Video-wise, Monday was what? Why? Was it Mystery versus Trumpet Snails?
Yes.
Yeah, we did the video. And she said the whole time, we got to have a different title than that because this is crazy. This comparison doesn't make any sense. I'm like, it makes sense.
No, it makes no sense
to
at
me.
all.
Because I think they both have their advantages and disadvantages. So if you haven't seen it, I know on the surface it doesn't make sense. Just give me the opportunity to make my case for the trumpet snail because I tried real hard. So,
and it's not anything related to our next video, geophagus versus feeder fish. It's not related to that at all.
That's not, first of all, it's not our next video. And second of all, it's not the same thing, geophagus versus those... I don't know. Do they still sell those like little pink feeder fish? I haven't seen those.
I don't know, but I bet you if I saw them up close, I'd probably want them.
Oh, what were they called? The rosy fish or something? Remember those? I haven't. Do they keep them by you, like at your pet stores around your area? Because in our area, there used to be the little pink feeder fish, and they were everywhere.
Dudes.
They never lasted very long. I mean, it's not something you'd want to bring home and keep as a pet because I think they purposely just genetically engineered those things to die after about 2 days. Now, when I see feeder fish, I don't see those. I see mostly just like wild guppy type fish. But I don't know. Maybe they still keep them. But anyway, so that was Monday. Today on your channel, The Smallscape, you had a really good video, I thought.
Thank you.
And what was it about?
It was about tiny fish. Really 5 of the smallest fish. And really, what is the smallest tank you could keep each of those in?
Yep, and Stacy and Zen, rosy reds. Yeah, those were the fish.
Rosy reds.
So yeah, can I ask a question in front of everybody?
Sure.
The other night, when I was falling asleep, were you asking me questions about these fish, or was that a dream?
No, that was... Yeah.
All I remember is I was definitely, you know how you get like partway in that sleep zone where you're just like really just kind of dozing off. It's your most creative time.
And then
I remembered you saying, what about galaxy Rasboras?
Yeah.
What about this fish? What about, and you kept asking about tank size. Like, we keep them in this, right? I'm like, yeah. And I didn't think about it. I completely forgot about it. And then you started asking me questions during the daytime when I'm cognitively engaged. And I'm like, this sounds really familiar. So.
Yeah. Whenever.
Anyway.
You just I like to come up with scenarios, guess the answer, ask him, and then see if my answer's right. You know, it's like a puzzle. Yeah.
So check that video out, The Smallscape, if you haven't done so. It was a really good video. Like I said, members video came out today. Friday, we have Fish Room Tour Part 3 coming out. And then Monday, I'm just following it up with Fish Room Tour Part 4. So wait, I said Part 3? Yeah, Part 3 is Friday. Part 4 is going to be Monday. And I am really excited about these next couple parts because we're featuring a lot of larger tanks.
You showed me little clips and I was
That was Part 4. I have a hard time. I think Part 4 might actually be the best, but it's hard to choose. It's like choosing which kid is your best. It's like which tank is your best, which fish is your favorite. You feel like there's 1,000 other fish be like, doesn't like me as much. But hey, toughen up, little fishies. Sometimes people have to have a favorite. Saturday, you got something, a little half a product review, kind of, sort of?
Kind of.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So that's what's going on in the video land world. Places to be, Aquashella. I just posted the stuff. There's a ton of vendors. I just posted the vendors on Facebook and Instagram. There's a lot.
Really?
Yeah, there's a big old list of vendors that are going to be there. And some I haven't seen. At least I don't remember seeing some of these vendors on coming to Aquashella before, so that's going to be new and improved and exciting, I think. So Aquashella Dallas, first weekend in August, be there. I think, what is that, like the 5th and 6th, 4th and 5th, somewhere in there. It's the Saturday, Sunday. So somebody was asking last week, what are the hours? It's 10 to 7 on Saturday, 10 to 5 on Sunday. So it's fresh in my brain because I just saw the advertisement for it. So that's the deal there. And like I said, if you're doing Aquashella or you ever plan to do it, trust me, the VIP pass is the way to go. I know it's expensive compared to the other ways to gain admission, but you get in up to 2 hours earlier than everybody else, sometimes 3, depending on what general admission is. You get to do the meet and greet with the YouTube booth. The lines are a lot shorter if you want to meet other people, Corey or KG Tropicals and, all these.
It's less crowded.
Tanner, yeah, so it's less crowded, so it's a little bit easier to talk with people. It's not quite so overwhelmingly rushed. If you want to get in and buy stuff, especially on Saturday morning, if you want to buy fish or rocks or wood and you don't want to get the picked over stuff, VIP is the way to go. You'll get there a little bit earlier. So that's the deal there. And then we've got the swap July the 24th, so a little bit before Aquashella, Greenwater, Aquarius Society. Got some cool fish, hopefully showing up on the way there. Fish Fan 20 gallon long. Thank you so much for the super chat. A friend is donating to me a 20-gallon octagonal column aquarium. To me, fourth aquarium, I think of populating it with 20 assorted Neocaridina shrimp and hillstream loach. What plants and fish would go well in there? So, first of all, I think I see a name change coming. I don't think, how can you stay with Fish Fan 20-gallon long when now you've got this octagonal? I think you need to change it to Fish Fan 20-gallon octagonal column aquarium.
Yes.
There's your name change. Have fun.
It's catchy.
You heard it here first. You'll be the first person ever with that name. Well, you were the first person with Fish Fan 20-gallon long, too, because otherwise YouTube would have said, sorry, man, that name's taken. But anyway, to answer the question, so hold on, let me wrap my head around this. A 20-gallon octagonal column aquarium. Okay, so octagon or hexagon? Because it makes a huge difference. I mean, if it's an octagon, you got more sides, and the hexagon has less corners, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So anyway, what would I do with that? So you got the hillstream loaches, you got the Neocaridina. I'm going, because it's not a long tank, right? It's not a 20-gallon long. I would want very small fish, so that would mean a lot of the small Rasboras. Is that what you were going to say too?
Big old school.
Yeah. So you've got your chilies, your miras, your dwarf Rasboras. So you can go as big as a green cubitai, galaxy Rasboras, dwarf emerald Rasboras. I've noticed we've amassed quite the species profile list of Rasboras lately. So all of those are great options. And even with the 20-gallon hexagon, octagon type thing you got going on there, it's large enough to certainly get that done, even though I would imagine that 20-gallon tank is probably only, maybe 14 inches or so wide in any direction, but it'll work.
Now for plants, depends what you have in the center. If it's like our column tank, I have a piece of driftwood, and so does Mary Page Flynn, I believe, in hers. She has kind of like a centerpiece of driftwood. Then you can get away with attaching a lot of Anubias on there. That would be really cool, and you can do different kinds, even ones that get very tall. The the gracilis and the coffeefolia. You could also, let's see, what else? If you want just plants that get tall, Dwarf and Bulia is going to get really tall. Bacopa will get really pretty decently tall. Val, any kind of val or corkscrew val. That, you know what? Corkscrew val would be phenomenal in there.
Yeah, that would look cool. All great options. Let's see here. Lynn said that she loved your video today.
Who did?
Lynn.
Oh, thanks,
So thank you for
Lynn.
that.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
watching.
I liked it quite a bit too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I normally hate them, but this one was really good, so that's why I shared it. I'm just kidding. I like them all, but this one I just thought was special. So yeah, very nice. All right, we got a bunch of really cool questions rolling in here, and I have lost track because we're gonna have to see how much scrolling. What's
Whip's World's here.
Oh wow!
Shh, everybody, shh, quiet.
Oh, we forgot to send him his. Oh no, that's right. The next time we see him, we were gonna give him buttons or whatever, magnets.
Oh yeah, we'll give him.
We can't.
We'll give him
Dave from
$25
Iowa,
worth of
yeah,
stuff.
Dave from Iowa set that up, so don't you worry. Next time.
That's right.
We see you. We're gonna stick magnets all over the place. Yep. So let's see here. Wendy says, "Awesome sound and video. Want the shirts? The shirts, by the way, these." Can you please?
I'm sorry. I'm getting over a cold.
Yeah, she is.
Just my summer cold.
She's doing really well, so
Thanks.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Anyway, this is Agno Aquatics. They're based out just outside of Cleveland, so I think it's Strongsville area. So that's where they gave us these shirts, and
They're
really
the best
nice
in the
place.
world.
They're absolutely wonderful people, and they had a lot of cool fish. We did a fish room, fish store tour. If you want to check it out, Agno Aquatics. So if you're ever in the area, I think they ship these. From what I could remember, I thought they said, yeah, we'll ship them. So Agno Aquatics, if you like these types of shirts, that's
super cool.
Where to go. And they might ship fish too. I don't know.
There was a question earlier. I think I've lost it, but I believe it was a question on how many CPDs, Celestial Pearl Danios, otherwise known as the Galaxy Rasbora, you can keep in a 10-gallon. And that would have been in my video.
It was in your video.
That's right. Do you remember how many I said?
Well, I think I remember either how many you said or how many you said before you posted the video. I thought it was like 8 to 10 or something like that.
No, I think did I say 6?
I don't know, but I would put 8 to 10 if it were me. But, you know, we have a differing opinion. I'm going to put out a response video to your video.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right. Instead of like 6, you're going to say, I would put 7.
Yeah, I just think that 6 is completely unreasonable. Let me tell you why. Yeah, we've been talking about that. Someday it's going to happen. I'm going to put out a response.
Cool.
And it's going to cause all kinds of pandemonium. T-Rock, how many rummy nose in a 30-gallon? Is the 30-gallon kind of similar in size to the 29? Is that what we're talking here? Because that's a 30-inch tank long. So I would start with probably 10 to 15, see how that looks. I think that's a good starting point.
See, I would have said 12.
Well, that's why we're different people. That's why I'm a fish nerd and plant nerds have different answers. For sure. All right, Izzy. Hey, guys, I was wondering if you think 20 Congo Tetras in a 110-gallon would be okay. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That would look fantastic. They get pretty large. The Congo Tetras are definitely one of the larger Tetras out there, but a 110-gallon, I'm assuming that 110 is at least a 5-foot tank, if not a 6-foot. I think it'll look pretty good.
Will would like to know, would a 55-gallon be too small for 4 Geo Vegas Tapajos?
I had at 1.6 in a 55-gallon. The only issue that I ran into is once the pair started to form, I had one pair on the left of the tank. They pushed the other fish off to the right. It probably wasn't an ideal setup. I think you could get away with 2 pair, but I think ultimately you'd be better off with just a pair in a 55-gallon in any 4-foot tank. I think that would probably be the safest way. Joe said, I didn't see the members only video today. Or notified. Maybe you weren't notified, but and for members, just go into the members only folder and then it'll pop up there. But yeah, it was released today. I saw people commenting and viewing it. So unless YouTube did something horrible to your feed, it's always possible. Sam, hold on, I got to answer this. Then you're looking at me expectantly like you've got something to say.
I do.
Do you want to say it now and then I'll wait?
No.
Please sure.
Continue.
Okay, Sam, because Sam said, does the 1 inch per gallon really matter? No, it doesn't. For a lot of reasons. The best example I can give you is, let's just say you had a 29 gallon. And in that 29 gallon, you've got 29 inches of fish. 29 inches of fish on the wall, 29 inches of fish. If one of those Oscars should happen to fall, got 12 inches of fish on the wall. I made that up in my brain. I don't know why that popped into my head. Strange. So anyway, like, yeah, 29 gallon. Let's say you put 2 Oscars in there, nearly full grown. You have the 1 inch per gallon rule. You're cool. You didn't do anything wrong according to that rule. It would be an absolute disaster because Oscars not only get, first of all, they can get larger than 12 inches, but let's just say that was their full grown size. Nobody in their right mind would put 2 full grown Oscars in a 29 because it would look horrible. At the same time, I have had hundreds of Galaxy Rasboras in a 29, and now they don't get quite to be an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, but by that law or rule, roughly you're looking at 25 to 30. And I think that is very, very manageable, and you could probably do more. Not necessarily saying you should, but you could. I have done in a 55 gallon, so back to our 1 inch per gallon. In a 55 gallon, so now you got a 4-foot tank. Would I put 100 Galaxy Rasboras in that tank? Heck yeah, I would. Long term, without a doubt. But I would never even put 1 Oscar in there. That's 12 inches. So the 1 inch per gallon rule is probably one of the worst rules ever devised in aquarium history because it makes almost no sense. The problem, for me at least, is I have never seen a really great way to explain exactly what can go in a tank by some mathematical formula. That's why we did those stocking options videos where we started with, I think it was like a 5 gallon. And I'm pretty sure at this point we worked our way up to either a 55 or a 75. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, here's some options and ways you can stock these tanks, choosing certain numbers of fish from each category. Here's your centerpiece. Here's your schooling fish. Here's your scavenger fish. Look at those videos because they can be very helpful. Okay, now what you want to say?
Erzacht is requesting if you do a species profile on coolie loaches.
Coolies. Yeah, we got to do that. At one point, my hope for this channel, my goal, is to do a species profile in every freshwater fish known to man. Yeah. Sometime in 2215, I think I'm going to have that finished. So about a couple hundred years from now. But rest assured, it's a goal. It's a goal. Uh-huh. Maybe I finish 100 years earlier in 2115. So you just never know. I'll be like 130 years old. All right, here's the next one. Coolie loaches. But I asked for that 100 years ago. Sorry, man. So, yeah.
Which one do you think is the best aquashella? JK Fishkeeping says, heard that Orlando is the best.
So, once you cross through the doors, I'm not sure there's a best. Would you agree?
Yeah, they're all different, and probably every year they're different.
Yes, that's just it. So every single time you go, there's going to be a slightly different feel. Maybe the front has a different feel when you walk in. There's going to be different vendors. You're going to have there's a significant number of vendors that are local. So in Chicago, Dallas, Orlando, you're going to have people selling fish that are local to the area that all have their strengths. There's different creators that go depending on the locations. Like some people are going to go to Chicago that won't go to Dallas, or maybe Florida's halfway across the country for them, or all the way across the country, so they don't make it. I think the bigger question is, where do you want to be in those hours if you're making aquashella a weekend thing? A lot of people do. So it's I don't know the percentage of people who go there for the weekend as opposed to just one day, but I suspect it's conservatively 30 to 50% of people are probably there for the weekend. So if you're traveling and all, then the question is, okay, for instance, this year, would I rather be in Orlando in February, Dallas in August, or Chicago in October? Mm-hmm. Now that depends on where you live. If you're in Dallas all the time or in Orlando, it's like, all right, I'm going to check that one out, but I might want to go to Chicago in October and get the fall colors. Or I might want to, if we live in Chicago, it's like, man, you know what, Chicago, whatever. I want to be in Orlando. I will take the Dallas heat at the beginning of August because, quite frankly, it's not that much hotter than it is here in August, and it's just something cool and new to do. So which one's better? Go to all three. You tell us.
That's right.
But I don't think there's a better one necessarily. They all have their uniqueness. Different speakers rotate in and out depending on who's going to be there. Dustin, thank you so much for the super chat. How often and how much water should you change in a planted aquarium that always has close to 0 ppm nitrates? I have lots of duckweed and hornwort. What would be a good water change schedule? That's a great question because, you've heard me say a number of times, and you hear a lot of people say, hey, water changes are determined by nitrate concentrations, and we try to keep those at 20 parts per million or less. Go a little bit higher with your planted tanks if you want to, but for the most part, that's our goal. If your plants are thriving in such a way, or maybe you're running CO2, or you've just got everything really dialed in, there's not a lot of fish, but a lot of plants, it's like, hey man, nitrates are not an issue. What I would do at that point is look at two things. One, how are the plants doing? Because there are minerals in the water that the plants can utilize. So if you see that your plants are just, maybe they're not growing as well as they normally do, if you've got plants that would normally pearl, so they're making all the little bubbles, they're not doing that as much, they're just looking a little frumpy, you can easily do a 20% water change, check it out, say, hey, you know what, they did a little bit better. Maybe they were missing one of those key minerals. If everything is running great, the plants are growing well, everything's doing well, you're occasionally topping off your tanks, and it's like, this is looking good. Don't worry about it. Again, case in point, these 4 tanks, I've said it probably at least once every couple weeks. So these tanks at this point have probably been up and running for about a year. One time did I take water out of the tanks. I've been topping them off. For the most part, water hardness hasn't really budged all that much. The nitrate, because these tanks are so lightly stocked, I'm not at all worried about nitrate concentrations. The plants are looking good. Now, if I saw like, man, these plants are really struggling, I would probably just go ahead and do a 20% water change and see if that changes anything. So great question. Test the water, just make sure. I mean, you're saying your nitrates are low, but if your plants are looking good, fish are doing fine, I wouldn't worry about it all that much. Oh my gosh, the thing just skipped all over the place on me. Crispy Pages. Love that. Thank you so much for the super chat. I'm trying to have steady algae growth for my hill stream loaches, but keep mostly getting hair algae that they don't eat. Any suggestions on growing algae without hair algae taking over? No. Unfortunately, no. That kind of stuff, it's going to do what it does, and it would be great if we could select for the algae we want to grow. Unfortunately, once green hair algae kind of establishes itself, it's going to continue to grow as long as there are nutrients there. The best you're going to be able to do with that, if you really want the algae growth for the hill stream loaches, is allow everything to grow and then physically remove the green hair algae. The other thing to consider is, will the hill stream loaches eat the algae wafers or any other types of vegetable matter that you throw in the tank? Because maybe then you don't have to focus so much on trying to grow the algae. You can put in like the kelp. We use kelp wafers from Northfin. Those things are awesome. It's real, plant-based material. That's the majority of what's in those things. So you could go that route and see, okay, well, they're eating that. They're doing good. They're looking great. Now I'm not so worried about trying to grow this stuff on purpose. Sup?
Hey, sup?
Do you got something you want to talk about?
Fish fan has a.
I just saw that.
Did you see it?
We all end up dead. It's just a question of how and why. You keep giving these quotes of movies that clearly I haven't seen enough. You have to understand something. When I do movie quotes and when I say I can recite whole movies, there's a really good reason. I don't have like a photographic memory. If I see a movie once, I retain very little. My problem is I'm like a little child. You know those little children? Why is that funny to you? Why did that resonate with you so easily and so naturally?
Because it's true. How do you think the boys would watch Cars?
Do you see
like
the problem?
Times?
That wasn't fake laugh. That was like, oh yeah. See how quickly
so
this
true.
is marriage after 20 years, over 20 years.
Yeah, but I'll do the same thing. That's
you
funny.
do. Yeah.
I do.
So the child in me will watch a movie like 650 times to the point where I can basically recite the whole thing, whether that's Star Wars, Lord of the Rings,
Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom. Stupid movies too, like Mr. Mom. I mean, it's not stupid. I like the movie.
Wild Hogs.
Wild Hogs, Office Space. I don't know. There's just My Blue Heaven. They're just movies I like, and I just keep watching them. So when people give me these quotes, and if I've only seen the movie once, I'm horrible at it. So that's the long version of, I have no idea.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody else is going to get it.
Somebody else needs to get it too. Yep, somebody needs to get that quote. All right, Lefty's here. What's up? You going to Aquashella? Are you going to go? Let me see here. I saw some really good ones, and I missed them. By the way, before I forget, thank you to all the moderators who are here. I see Oinks here. Dave from Iowa's here. Wendy, Lynn. Probably missed a couple. I don't know if James was here. I didn't see his name pop up right away. Usually he's like right up there in the front part. But anyway, if you've got a question, put @Primetime Aquatics in front of your question. It highlights it for us in orange so that we can see it. a little bit easier. Slam Boy just said, what happened to the smallest fish in the world you posted a few years back in April? That was, what was the name of that fish? Saloofis. Oh, the Saloofis fish. Yeah. We still have it. I'll give you an update next April. April 1st is probably, yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. Actually, no, he shrunk.
Really?
Small, yeah, those are reverse growth fish. So I'll give that one to you April 1st of 2023 so you can see how much it shrunk. It's gotten a lot smaller. A lot more aggressive, though. We cannot put any other fish in there. I tried peacocks, haps, and Buna. It didn't work. Nope. No, Saloofis killed them all.
They all just got ripped to shreds, huh?
Yeah. It was pretty bad. Let's see here. Eztrek. Hold on. Ertzek. Sorry.
I already did that one.
I would love the kudos. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
That's my best guess.
Okay.
But yeah, we got that.
Let me see what we got going on. Let me scroll around here. Gregory says, heavily planted tank. Been watching my nitrates low to 0, GH mild range, KH 7.2. That's cool. That'll work. Lynn said, I will trade you 500 Borneo spotted loaches for 2 hill stream reticulated loaches. So for the members that I brought in the hill stream loaches, I did that video last week. Those things are not doing well. So I'm glad this is why I bring in fish a month early, because that particular group of fish is doing very poorly. And I brought in 20. I'll be lucky to have half of them by the time it ends. But hopefully by the end of the 4 weeks, when they go through quarantine, we'll have settled all the things. But they are not doing well. Those in the clown loaches, because they were so small, I think, not a good situation. But again, that's why we quarantine the stuff for 4 weeks, because I want to be the one to have to deal with that, not people who wind up buying our fish at the swaps and then wind up having a bad experience, because that would be horrible. Second Floor Aquatics. Be sure to add that Prime Time Aquatics. Yep, before you question. Jason and Joanna can see it better. Well, Joanna can. I can't see no matter what, but at least I can see the orange color. And then when I mess up somebody's name or the question, then what was the one I messed up that one time that everybody makes fun of me for?
Femfish?
Femfish. Fernfish.
Fernfish.
Yeah. Yep, the fernfish. Went on and on about a fernfish.
Oh, my goodness.
That I had no idea what it was.
Good times.
Real Madrid. Good morning, fellas from
Hello there.
Kurdistan.
Yeah.
Good morning. My 7 fish and I stay slaw? It means in Kurdish language. What does that mean? And I stay slaw.
And I say slaw.
Oh, maybe for a good morning?
7 fish and I say slaw.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Fun.
Hip Hop Hillbilly. Any tips for netting fish in a heavily planted tank without destroying the whole thing? So there's 2 things that I would do. One thing is try to get them, turn the lights on, immediately start catching them when they're still like, hey, what's going on? What is this bright light? What's going on? They're not awake, and boom, try to scoop them up. Second thing is 2 nets. Like I tell Joanna and the boys, every time we are catching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fish for the swaps, it always works better when you have 2 nets. 1 net to kind of slowly guide the fish into another area, or to keep them out of an area that if they get back there, I'm not catching these things at all. But besides that, you could try to lower the water level, although I don't know if that's going to help as much in a planted tank. But if it's more lightly planted, for those of you who just have hardscaping, lowering the water helps. Unfortunately, when you've got a heavily planted tank, you're going to tear stuff up. That's pretty much the bottom line, because JA said so.
Classic.
I know. SM Pet Keeping. Hi. I'm going to get a pair of yellow checkerboard discus. I'm going to put them in a 65-gallon custom build, 36 by 24 by 16. So 36 wide. So usually we go length times width times height. Is it enough? What are good natural clear feeds for yellow? Okay, tank size. Probably not long term. If they're discus get, I have seen discus the size of a small plate. And I mean, like even the ones, granted, these were in a 3,000-gallon tank, but it really showcased just how large these fish can get. They were like this. I mean, they were huge.
Yeah.
So, and they get very, very tall and quite wide. Not so much thick, but tall and wide. So I don't think long term that's going to work. I think if they're small, you could potentially grow them out. But I have seen, if it were me and I were personally keeping discus, the very, 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 very bare minimum that I would even consider it would be a 90. So a 90 gallon is 4 feet long. It's 18 and a half inches wide, but it's also, I don't know how tall the 90 is. If the 75 is somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 or 23, I think, the 90's got to be, 24 to 26 inches at least. So more likely than that, I would try to keep my discus in a standard 6 foot 150 or larger long term, just because they do get so wide. I know you only got 2, but if they grow to their full potential, they're going to be absolutely stunning fish if they have the height. So in a 16-inch tall tank, if that's what we did, if we did length times width times height, they're not going to have a lot of space between the top of the tank and the bottom at one full grown. When I say not a lot, I mean if they're swimming in the water, they would probably only have a couple of inches, and that sometimes will lead to them dragging their fins along the substrate and things like that happening, which can be maybe not the most ideal, but great fish.
Fish Room Fever's here.
Fish Room Fever, James, what's up, man? Looking forward to seeing you in Dallas here in a few weeks. That's going to be cool.
Yeah. Lefty's also here. Hey, Lefty, are you going? Great minds think alike. I'm surprised you could see that part.
I said that.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. This is the other thing I have to deal with.
Oh, no.
I said literally like 5 minutes ago, Lefty's here. What's up, dude? You going to go into Dallas? And then there's this one. You see what I had to deal with? She doesn't listen to anything I say.
I must have thought you said
First
a different
of all,
name. Who
she
did I
asks
think
me
you said?
questions when I'm mostly asleep, and then when I do say things when I'm fully awake, is she listening? No,
Sorry.
She's not.
Not sorry.
I was going to say, are you really sorry though?
Not really.
Are you? Because this is something you're going to have to work on. I think you're going to have to work on that. Let's see. All right. Toasty. Wife saw a twig catfish at our pet supermarket. Do you know what the care requirements, tank size, are for those? So the twig catfish. The twig catfish is, I'm just going to look it up because that name can be used for different types of fish. I have seen the twig catfish used for like the L10A type plecos. I have seen the twig catfish used for the, what the heck is that? We've had those before. Hold on, let me just look real fast. Farlowella, duh, yeah, the Farlowella cats. I've had them in 75 gallons. So twig catfish are awesome. I've had groups of them before. I've had them, they get kind of long, so I don't know what kind of, did you mention a tank size? I've already forgotten. I don't think so. No. They do get kind of long, so I'd probably want at least a 20 gallon for them. I don't think I would put them in anything less than a 10, but they're not really super active. Our Farlowella cats live for a decently long time. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, somewhere in there at least. I don't remember because they moved around from tank to tank. Not super active, but I didn't find them to be particularly shy. They do what a lot of Pleco type fish do, and that is they will graze on algae. So if you don't have a lot of algae, you're going to want to feed them either some type of sinking pellet or some type of algae wafer. Probably a good idea to feed them at night because they are pretty active at night. So yeah, those are great fish. They're really cool.
The quote is from Braveheart.
Yeah, see, that's a movie I've only seen maybe once or twice, and I saw it like in the 90s. So good movie, great movie, but not one that I've committed to my memory just yet, unfortunately.
It's a fun one.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, there were some questions. There were a few way up here that I wanted to, Zachary says, I was wondering if you can keep Galaxy Rasboras and Emerald Dwarf Rasboras together in a community tank with all neon blue Tetras and ruby Tetras and Emperors. If the blue Tetra is the one I did the species profile on, those fish are really assertive, / they will sometimes harass other fish. I had them in a 55 gallon. They were crazy active. So if that's the one that kind of does the back and forth swimming thing, if that's what you're talking about, they're not like the true neon, like the neon Tetra or like the cardinal or anything like that. But those fish, really highly active. You could try it. So they're in there with ruby Tetras right now. Emperors are pretty assertive too sometimes. and they're significantly larger than certainly the emerald dwarf and the galaxy. They get about the same size, but those are really small fish. If you try it, be careful. I would try to have a second tank set up, maybe a smaller one just off to the side. If it doesn't work, you can get those out and watch them really closely. But it would be something I would hesitate to do because of the blue tetras. I like those blue tetras a lot, but they're also a fish I think I'd rather have in with, like, let's say some smaller barbs, or even like gouramis or something like that. Something that's just going to be, I think the personalities in terms of their assertiveness match a little better.
Danielle would want to know, let's see, would diamond tetras be good tank mates for angels, or would they be too quick?
I'm not worried about active. The quickness. I would just keep an eye and make sure they're not going to fin nip, and so keep them well fed. And it depends on the size of the tank. Obviously, if you're trying to cram those into a 29, probably not a good fit. If you've got a 4-foot tank, better. Anytime you're mixing some of the larger, medium-sized tetras, the diamonds, the serpes, what else? The black phantom tetras, certainly the Buenos Aires, got to be really careful with those. Just make sure that we're not getting, especially if you've got veil-tail angels, that they're not going to be fin nippy. Keep them well fed is better. But I'm not worried about the speed, because angelfish typically can be, they are aggressive eaters, especially when younger. Will the diamond tetras eat a lot of the food? Sure. But angelfish will not starve in that tank. Because I've got my angelfish in with Congo tetras, and when they were young, those Congos were like a nutcase. Every time I fed the tank, they would go crazy. Angels were fine. All right, let me see here. Hold on, there was one other one I wanted to make sure that I got way up here. Oh, Paul said, hey, should I just keep dosing my 36-gallon with bacteria until the haziness of the new aquarium goes away? Not necessarily. And I think Silver Creek did a good job of answering this as well. The cloudiness could be due to a bacterial bloom, not necessarily ammonia or nitrite. That being said, test the water. If you've got ammonia or nitrite, dose more bacteria. If you don't, I wouldn't add more because there's no need to. I think Silver Creek did a good job in that sometimes it's best just to leave the water alone in a new tank and just let everything settle. And you'd be surprised after a week or so if there's no ammonia or nitrite issues, and it's not due to like, oh, I put in all this dirty pool filter sand and now it's just, clouded up my water. That's not going to just go away. But if it's just new tank, little bit of cloudy water, no ammonia, no nitrite, just let it settle. But no need to add the bacteria if you don't have those in your water. So.
All right, so Lefty will probably not be in Dallas, but he will be in Chicago.
Okay, that's cool.
Right. It will give us something to look forward to, Lefty.
I think you were in Chicago. Was it last year? Chicago was the one we went to.
Wasn't it? Some of these merged together.
They all merged together at this point. Like I said, I'm part of the planning committee for the creator booth, and we'll be talking about something. And all of us are the same way. We're like, all right, so we had it set up like this. No, that wasn't Dallas. That was Orlando in 20 whatever. And like, wait, was it? And because like I said, once you get inside, it's got a very awesome feel to it. So it's, when choosing an aquashella, choose it based on location, because they're all cool.
Okay, but there also is, Lefty does have a side note. He's got a question.
This is a note on the left or the right?
Okay. Do you have any experience with Apistogramma ortigae, piabas?
Short answer is no.
You can try and breed some.
I don't. That would be awesome. So I'm assuming if you got those Apisto, they are either wild or probably F1s, in which case you're going to want to be a little bit more aware of water parameters. So I certainly wouldn't try to breed them in water over a pH of 7, I don't think. Just, kind of spitballing here on fish I've never kept. But a lot of those Apistogramma that are not Agassizii, Cockatoides, Borellii, even the Panduro at this point, those things have gotten to a point where they're a little bit easier to breed, and even water like ours that gets up to a pH of 8 we'll see fry. But those more obscure Apistos, usually they're not widespread enough to be like, okay, this is my F10 generation, and they've been bred in hard water with a high pH for generations upon generations. So you're probably going to want to start in the range of, you're certainly way under 7, most likely in softer water. But I hope you have an awesome time breeding them and are successful, because that'd be cool.
Jimmy wants to know, do you know where he can get his hands on a zebra Pleco? What's the What's the place?
Well, there's two places that I would look for something like that, a zebra pleco. One is the Wet Spot. They're a rather large fish retailer that ships all over the country. The other one would be Aquabid, but obviously with Aquabid, you're taking your chances. You're going to have to do your research, make sure the seller has shipped plenty of fish before. Obviously, the issue with the zebra pleco is that's a higher dollar thing. They don't really ship that well sometimes, so I would prefer to go someplace online that's used to shipping fish, used to the intricacies of shipping different types of fish, and paying attention to what's the weather going to be like here, what's the weather going to be like there, am I going to need an ice pack, is it going to be okay without one? So
does the place in Wisconsin ship?
Aquatics Unlimited?
No, the Pleco.
Oh, yeah,
Exotics?
They do. Oh,
No.
Freshwater Exotics.
Yeah,
Oh my
there you go.
gosh, yeah. How could I forget them? Freshwater Exotics. Oh my gosh. Check them out. Yeah, they're based in Wisconsin, and they do a lot. That's what their specialty is, plecos. I can't believe I didn't think of that. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
See, she's around here for a reason because she's got some of those thinking
I
things.
know,
called
zebra Plecos. That
brain
was the
cells.
first place that popped in my head.
Well, you
'cause
should have
that's
just
where I
cut me
saw
off right away and be like, dude, stop talking.
You're right.
Freshwater Exotics.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Lady fish. All right, let's see here. One Cory with an infection that looks like cotton. I quarantined and treated for a week using Maricin Oxy, no change. Changed water and did week with Pemifix. No change. All other fish fine thoughts. I'm going to say something that probably most or some people are going to not agree with. This is something we've talked about in the clubs quite a bit, and it's a part of fish keeping that we don't like to often acknowledge. There are times when you throw medications at a fish, and when the rest of the fish are doing well, and you don't have a positive outcome. Now, yes, could you do Maricin 1, Maricin 2? Maybe, and I'm not saying those won't work. I'm just saying, do you want to spend the extra money to bring in those meds? If you do, that's totally cool. One of the conversations we had at Greenwater Aquarium Society a couple months ago, and it was just kind of a sit-down thing. It wasn't really a formal presentation. And I was listening to a lot of the people who have been keeping fish longer than I've been alive. And the subject was, at what point do you not treat the fish and just decide this is not going to be worth either the time, the cost, or potentially the risk to the other fish? And it's different for everyone. With us having 80 fish tanks and a lot of fish, if I have one fish that's just not responding to first level, and I've got lots of fish meds, so I can throw meds in a tank, but if it's not responding to a couple, my next inclination is to get that fish out and then begin to think about euthanizing the fish. If you do that, it's clove oil. That is the way that is accepted by veterinary societies, things like that. But it's a side that we don't want to talk about. It's a side that of fish keeping that's unfortunate. Sometimes you have a fish that's either really, really old or they're just hurting. Now, you know from watching our fish room videos, I don't discard fish because they're old and maybe they don't look good anymore. But where I start to get concerned is when I've got old fish and they're starting to have a hard time swimming, or they're starting to get skinny, or something is wrong, skeletal wise. And I think, okay, this is a fish that is in bad shape. It's getting older, but that old fish, it's not just the fact that externally it's not looking good. What's going on with its immune system? Because that's the type of fish that if it's not removed from a tank, it could bring in disease to your healthy fish because its immune system has crashed so bad that now these opportunistic infections have an opportunity to grow to a high enough concentration where now they're impacting other fish. So that is a long answer and slightly off topic, but I think as fish keepers, we do have to constantly assess when fish are sick, what are my treatment protocols? And the other thing too is, how much are you willing to spend on a fish, right? And it's perfectly okay. The answer is perfectly fine to say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to treat this fish because I feel that I am responsible for trying to maintain this fish's health. And yeah, I'm going to dump $100 worth of meds on a $2 fish or a $5 fish because I love that fish. And I think that's your responsibility. Okay, fine. Some people don't have $50, $100 to throw at meds to treat the fish when they got, I got 2 dozen of these and one of them's sick. So could you do the Maricin 1, Maricin 2? Maricin Oxy has typically been good. So that's why I'm surprised. I guess that's what originally led me to this thought process and talking about it is if the Maricin Oxy is not helping that situation and you wind up doing Maricin 1 and 2 and it's still not helping, at that point, you're running out of options. Yeah, could you do straight, like a methylene blue solution or formalin based medications? Yes, but again, that's a tough one. It is.
Okay, this is from
On another note,
Fistachio. If I pronounce that correctly, I'm thinking pistachio. Fistachio. That's hard to say. All right, should I be concerned about one of my blood parrots? They're fading to white and the other isn't. I've kept them before and that's never happened before. Fading to white.
Okay, number of things there. Bunch of things. Thing number 1. I know that there are dyed blood parrots.
Really?
But in addition to that, that's why you see like the blue ones, the purple and the reds. Those aren't natural colors. They dyed the fish that way.
I've never seen those
they're
other colors.
interesting to be sure. I would not in a million years buy those because I just don't think that is something I want to promote. Not saying that's your case. The other thing that is quite popular that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and you're going to get guys again all kinds of little nuggets here tonight. The other thing that what goes on overseas is a lot of these fish are just jacked out of their minds on steroids. And you'll see it. You'll see these fish that go from overseas to somewhere else, to the pet stores. And at first, the colors are just popping. They're so deep and so rich and so amazing. But give it a month, 2 months, and when those chemicals are out of the water long enough, guess what starts to happen? Those males start to fade back to a more natural or even less than natural color. That can happen. So that could be something, depending on when you bought them. If it's been more recent and over the last month or two that's starting to happen, that could be something. Thing number 2, maybe they didn't do that at all. That's what's happening is that darker fish is more dominant. And so the other fish are basically trying to show subdominance, i.e. stop chasing me around. And the way they do that is they try to color down as much as possible because in the cichlid world, the more color you have as a male, often that means that you are showing off. It's kind of like a dude walking around with his Dago tee on, whatever you call those things, the little shirts, and showing off the muscles, being like, yeah, I'm the man. I'm walking down the street. I got my strut and everything. Right? That dude's showing off. And the fish are no different. Male fish are no different. But the way they do it is look at my fins, look at my color. And the other fish are like, I don't want to mess with this dude. And keep in mind, those fish can't go anywhere, right? They're stuck in a glass cage. So they're like, I can't leave. I'm going to lose a little bit of color so that big dude over there, who's the man, knows that, hey, I'm not trying to take any of your space. I'm not trying to take the ladies. I just want to be left alone. Thing number 3, water quality. When fish lose color, one of the things that I check, especially if I see that the fish are doing fine, nobody's getting picked on, anything like that, I'm going to go back to water quality because I want to make sure my ammonia is good, my ammonia nitrite at 0, nitrates 20 parts per million or less. Nothing crazy has happened with my pH, GH, or KH. Water temperature is consistent. So sometimes when water temperatures go down, fish will lighten up. That happens. Are they eating okay? Next thing, substrate and background color. So again, fish do what they can to try to blend into their surroundings. Especially if they're subdominant, especially if they're worried about other fish and being bullied. So if you have lighter substrate or a lighter background or no background, it's just showing up on a white wall, they will sometimes color down for that. And the only reason why that other fish is darker is because it's the lead fish. So those are just some things to think about.
Matthew does stuff. Are cold water changes good for African cichlids? I hear breeders say it encourages them to breed. I've also been doing cold water changes and see no problem.
Okay, so it depends on what you mean by cold. So let's say we're keeping a tank at 78 to 80 for your African cichlids, pretty reasonable temperature, 77 to 80. And you put water in that is 72. partial water change. Maybe that just temporarily lowered the water a couple degrees. Yeah, that will sometimes trigger cichlids to breed. Am I doing that every week? I don't. First of all, I don't do it at all because my fish tend to breed just anyway. But usually when people say, hey, those cooler, not cold, but cooler water changes can be beneficial, often what they mean is it will encourage fish to breed. If you're not trying to do that, I don't really see a reason to try that. And you got to be careful because no fish likes rapid water changes. Keep in mind in nature what's happening is, first of all, African cichlids, the Great Lake cichlids, they're in massive bodies of water. So there can be temperature gradients in the lake itself, but generally where they're going to inhabit, the temperatures are relatively stable. Yes, they can decrease and increase a little bit depending on the time of year, but for the most part, it's not like, oh, it's 78 and bam, 5 seconds later it dropped down to 70, and then bam, within an hour it's back to 78 because the heater kicked on. That's bad. All right. Fish cannot regulate their temperature like we can. They don't regulate internally, so they just become the temperature of the surrounding water. So slightly cooler water to breed, it can trigger breeding. Cold water changes or just dropping the temperatures, generally speaking, not advisable. That's not to say that is seasonal temperature changes aren't bad. All right? They can be good. For instance, with the Gymnogeophagus that I had in the 75 gallon, I lost them. I thought, and it was incorrect, I thought what was going to happen is I had that 75 gallon was right next to the window in our basement. And what I figured was without a heater in that tank, in the winter time, I would get the cooling effect because you can feel a draft in that window. And I thought that tank would drop down sufficiently in the wintertime where they would get that cooling period, and it didn't drop down enough, and those fish wound up just burning out and then dying on me, which was really unfortunate. So there are some fish that really do like to have that cooling period, but generally speaking, I don't think most African cichlids from the Great Lakes would like that long term. All right, what do we got? What you got? You got something? I'm all messed up. Like the chat's way off for me right now.
Yeah, mine went to the end. It popped. So, Fat Boy Fish Guy. It's hot, and it is hot in New Jersey. Okay. Ooh. Air conditioning, not too cold. Temperatures on tanks are rising. Any ideas besides ice cubes?
Okay, so chances are the tank temperatures are rising slowly, so that's good. So what we don't want, again, what we talked about just now, is we don't want to cool the temperature off by 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees really, really fast. So I'm not trying to dump a bag of ice in my tank and be like, okay, we went from 82, that was too hot. Oh, crud, now we're down to 74. Ice cubes can work. I think if I were going to do that, if I had a hang-on back filter, I wonder if I would try to put some in there. Not a lot, but some, just because it would distribute the water temperature a little bit more easily. Or I would put them maybe next to, or put them in like a filter bag next to a return. But again, be careful here because tank temperatures rising, to me, most fish, if they experience 80, 81, 82, yeah, some of the fish are like, dude, this is getting a little warm, but it's not like 81 dead, right? It's not like when they go cold and it's like, oh my gosh, the tanks accidentally got down in the low to mid 60s and now they're all gone. So a lot of the tropical fish that we keep, the temperatures are often, the range is 74, 75, up to around 80 is a pretty acceptable range. All the tanks we have in the basement, that basement is kicking at 82 right now. So the tanks are somewhere around 78, 79, depending on where they're at in the fish room, sometimes 80. They don't really go much above or below that. So I guess it just depends on how warm are they getting. Because if they're getting above 81, 82, then yeah, we want to start thinking about how, what we're going to do if it goes too much higher. All right. What else you got over there, question asker?
Let's see. Did you miss a super chat?
I don't know. Let me see. Let me scroll around here. No, I got Dustin. I got Crispy Pages. Let me just keep scrolling. It's going to jump on me, so I'm going to have to... Did I? Well,
I think you might have.
Okay, well, tell me what you think I missed, because half the time you're not paying attention to what I'm saying anyway. Oh, yeah, I did. Whip. What's up, man? Oh, hold on.
Oh, but that's another one then.
Thank you, Whip. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
hey,
Whip.
do y'all see my moves? See my moves? I was shaking and baking, just like the NFL, baby. You hear what I'm saying? I deliver it right to the end zone.
Can you picture that? I can picture whip.
Yeah.
But is that from a movie?
Well, I want to say I want to say it's Wild Hogs because I just really feel like that's. Yeah, isn't that after he gets hit by the bull? I think so. All right, but tell us.
Really?
You got to confirm because I just feel like that is a definite Wild Hogs movie quote. Bob, thank you very much for the super chat.
There we go. That's one.
When you breed fish, for example guppies, do you then let the children mate with each other and with their parents? I read inbreeding leads to weaker lines and recessive gene traits passed down. Guppies, yeah, I do. I don't breed a lot of guppies, but when I have bred guppies, it's a free-for-all. And if you let that go long enough, yeah, inbreeding can have a problem. But I've also read studies that show that the inbreeding issues don't start for a lot of fish, or for at least the fish that I read in these studies. It might be 15, 20 generations before you start to see problems. That being said, I do think that's why we have a lot of problems with bettas and guppies these days. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I think they are two fish when bought from big box stores where the genetics are horrible at this point. I think it creates a lot of stress because especially with bettas and guppies because they are beginner fish, bettas especially, and then people want to get into fish keeping. They get these beginner fish, have horrible luck, think they can't keep fish alive when really what's happening is a lot of times they're getting these bettas and guppies and the genetics are atrocious and then they don't live very long because they're just all jacked up and the people think, oh, it's me, and it's not. Those two are definitely on my list of fish where I just think they've been so inbred at this point. And part of it's probably where they're breeding the fish and the water parameters there, but oh my goodness. So in a home aquarium, if you're starting with good lines, am I super worried at first about the offspring, the F1s breeding back with the crossbreeding with the parents or each other? Not really. Would I let that go forever? No. Would I try to introduce new genetics into the tank after 6 months or a year? Yes. Bill A. Salufus. Yeah, that was the fish smallest fish in the world.
Smallest.
All right, let me see here. Salient Aquatics. Got an old 125 gallon. For the cheap, it has the single wide glass center brace in center. Old guy ran it 40 years. Think it's silicone, not part of glass. Thoughts on durability? I have no idea. If the center brace came with the tank, if it's silicone, no way would I trust that because silicone is not meant to bear a lot of load for the most part in a glass tank. I mean, if you think about glass tanks, a lot of them, they have a plastic rim on the top and the bottom and or center braces that are, the plastic is actually attached to the center brace. That's the primary structure that's holding the tank together. Once you remove that tank's going to explode. So a 125 is a 6-foot tank. If that, you said it's a glass center brace, that might just be siliconed in. I don't know what that is. I don't know if he's been running it for 40 years, and yeah, it's probably fine. But most center braces are going to be somehow very, very well either incorporated into the rim itself, or it's going to be attached in such a way where it's attached to the glass on both sides. Silicone's not going to hold that together.
Yes, that quote was from...
Thank you. Shake it and bake it, baby. And then the next line was, or one of the lines after that was, man, do you think that bull liked me? Kept following me around. What were you wearing? Rodeo clown? Oh, now you got jokes? The music moves me, but it moves me ugly.
Dudley.
Just do the sprinkler. I can't do the sprinkler.
Funny. Oinkmaster has a quote for us.
Uh-oh.
You ready?
All right. Let me put my brain on here.
All right. When you have nothing to lose. Why does that sound familiar?
Well, it does sound familiar. You have nothing to lose. Come on, you guys got to help. There's like almost 300 people here. Someone's got to know that quote. You've got nothing. I mean, there's a number of movies that I think have used that quote. for sure. But I don't know, like the movie.
The first movie that pops into my head, and I'm sure it's not it, but The Jerk, because he loses everything.
I don't know. You have to think about it. You think about it.
I'm going to think about it.
DK Chef, is it possible for a Molly to get whirling disease? All right, so the whirling, are we just talking about when it's doing this? Yeah, I've seen a lot of different fish do that, and when that happens, it's over, unfortunately. So I've never even attempted to try to treat that, because once the fish start doing the whole, I'm just going to start spinning around, or they start doing the back and forth where they're starting to go like this, it's mostly done. Unfortunately, it's mostly done at that point. I've never had success doing anything that would even remotely come close to bringing those fish back to a better state. Tracy says, I just scored a 29 long. 29 long? I have 7 red-eye Tetras. What do you think would look better? Exclusive red-eye only? Thanks. Or add another different school of Tetra. So I have 29 long. What is that, like a 4-foot tank? Because, I mean, we've got a 22 long, and that's, what is that, 3 feet? It's 36 inches, right? So 29... that's got to be 4-foot tank. So anyway, red-eye Tetras. I like red-eye Tetras, but that's another one. That's another one. We were talking earlier about the diamonds and the emperors and the black phantoms. That kind of gets into that realm where they're pretty stinking assertive. So what do you think would look better? Exclusive red-eye only, or another school of Tetra? It's really up to you. I saw the other day, I was looking through a list and I saw red phantom Tetras. So you know how you got the black phantoms? These were red phantoms. Really interesting fish. They were pretty expensive, I'm not going to lie, but they were cool. So I don't know why that just popped into my head. I also like the red minor Tetras, Serpe. Those would both work just fine. I think with the red eyes, I would stay away from the Buenos Aires. First of all, because they look so similar in terms of just their overall style to the red eye, and plus they're kind of mean. But black phantoms, the red phantom, if you could find them, would look pretty cool. I think those blue Tetras we were talking about earlier would also look cool. What else? I suppose you could maybe do Colombian Tetras in a tank like that. But I'm trying to think of like medium size, because I'm pretty sure if that's a 29 long, you're telling me that's a 4-foot tank. I mean, it's short and it's not super wide, but it's awesome. So yeah, what else? What other kind of Tetras? Maybe the Emperor Tetra. I might try that too. That's a pretty cool one. So those are some options. Do you have anything you want to add? Any options? Okay.
I can think of. I got one.
Okay.
Me, myself, and I. New to the hobby, getting to my 3rd tank now. Nice. What's the smallest tank I should keep tiger barbs in? I want about 6 of them in the tank, but wants the smallest tank. Heavily planted. Heavily planted is good. The funny story, I wouldn't do 6. I would do a heck of a lot more than 6. And the reason I know that's the popular thing, is anytime you get any kind of schooling fish, get 6 or more. With the tiger barbs, the or more is really important. We were just talking about the Buenos Aires Tetra. That's another one. It's just like the tiger barbs, where what will happen what happens when you get 6 is a portion of that group starts picking off the weakest ones within the group, and it just keeps happening. So you start with 6, pretty soon you notice one of them's kind of just hanging on his own. You don't really notice anything. 2 days later, it's dead. Then you might go a couple months and the other 5 are happy, but then you're like, oh my gosh, there's another one just kind of hanging by itself, and then a few days later, that one's dead. A few months later, well, now I'm down to 3. A few months after that, I've got 2, and usually a couple days after that, all right, I got 1. So to avoid that, it's less likely that will happen over the course of, and this can take a while. It's not like they're all going to just like every single day pick off one, but over the course of a year, that can happen. So to answer your question, if I were doing tiger barbs, I would probably do 25 or 30. Tiger barbs get pretty big, full grown. I mean, they're kind of roundish and chunky and a couple inches or so, and I would probably opt for that many. I'd want a 4-foot tank. I think that's probably what I would do. And even if I went
12 to 15, I'd still want that 4-foot tank to do that. But they're really cool. There's other barbs. So if you like the tiger barbs, check out. And in fact, you're going to see in part 4, I'm kind of ruining some of the surprise, but in part 4, we've got snakeskin barbs. I've got a big old group in a 75, but that was one where I could probably go a smaller tank. I wouldn't necessarily go necessarily smaller than a 4-foot, but they haven't been rough on one another. Rosy barbs are another one. I don't do the long fins. I mean, they're really cool looking, but often when you get the long fin rosy barbs, what you wind up with is 1 or 2 that look phenomenal, and the other ones are all kind of chewed up. So, but rosy barbs are, and they're really colorful, so that could be an option for you. What else in the land of barbs? Cherry barbs, but those are much smaller. So if you've got a smaller tank and you like that barb sort of look, the cherry barbs, you can keep a group of those in a smaller tank. Chuck, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi guys, I can't seem to keep Java fern alive after 4 months or so. I don't bury them. I fertilize, I give it 6 hours of light. Could high pH and high end KH be the problem?
Java fern's a stinker.
Is it your least favorite just because of that? Is it your nemesis?
Pretty much. I mean, you can give it the exact parameters that it wants, and you know what? I have a rule of thumb. If you want to keep Java fern alive, put it in a tank that you don't want it in. It'll work great in there.
So, I don't know if 6 hours of light necessarily is ideal. I might try to bump that up. Hopefully you're not going to get any algae or anything, but I might try to bump it up a little bit. You said you're doing the fertilization thing. So Java fern's not a super fast grower. You're not burying it so that, it's rotting from the bottom. But we have had problems. Could high pH and high KH be the problem? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, it depends on how high we're talking, but we're kicking at about an 8 to an 8.2 on pH. KH is 10 degrees. But I don't think that's the issue because like Joanna said, in some of our tanks it grows just fine. It's growing best in our 75-gallon Kessel light tank. Those Kessel lights are crazy expensive. They're doing great there, but it's every once in a while, we'll just get a tank where it's really growing. I thought, and I'm not a plant expert. You know more about plants, but wasn't somebody saying a few months ago we were talking about Java fern? Was it potassium?
Oh,
that they thought, or
yeah. So that could be if it's low in potassium.
Was it potassium?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what.
I think so.
It was what salt they were saying, but I thought it was potassium. Maybe sometimes if Java fern doesn't do well if there's low potassium. So, but I cannot corroborate. I don't know because I've never tried to mess with it.
I know it doesn't like a lot of changes, like sudden changes or frequent changes, but if you're just buying it and just kind of putting it in your tank right away, it wouldn't be that.
Oh, Jeff, you brought up a really good one. Odessa Barb. Yeah, that was another one in the whole conversation about tiger barbs. The Odessa Barbs are definitely cool.
The movie quote?
Yeah.
You've never seen the movie, I don't think.
Wait, which movie quote are we talking about?
From Oink.
Okay.
Titanic.
I've seen...
Did you see it?
Everybody has seen Titanic.
Do you know the only reason that I saw that movie is because nobody told me that it was sad at the end? Well, I mean, besides the obvious sad at the end. I didn't know, like, the major character, like he died. So otherwise I wouldn't have watched
a giant did anybody survive the Titanic?
No, I'm just saying besides the obvious. Yeah, sure, she did.
I mean in real life.
Well, but,
like some people,
yeah.
Did they get to him? Because I don't know. I don't remember. I'm not a Titanic expert.
Yes, and fun facts. Oh my gosh, if you ever look up like historical, documentaries about the Titanic, all the survivors would like constantly be asked questions and stuff like that. Like what was it like? And so they were like kind of like popular.
You guys want to know a funny story? I'm going to share this in front of the entire world. There are certain movies that are rather sad. You want to tell the class what your sad movie was when we were dating? What movie we watched that was very sad for you?
Face Off.
No, it wasn't Face Off. It was Con Air.
That one was sad too.
I look over. We're watching Con Air. And at the end, I look over, and guess who's got a face full of tears? Con Air. Now, if you've never seen Con Air, it's an action movie with Nicolas Cage. That should tell you everything you need to know. You know it's going to be entertaining, but one of the dumbest movies you've ever seen, and you will have lost brain cells because of it.
A little bit.
It's still a great movie. I mean, You got Con Air, you've got The Rock, you've got Face Off. All great movies. All stupid. No reason to cry in any of them, but you found ways to cry Face Off and Con Air.
Sorry.
I was very Very
just
proud
gonna
of you for that. Yep. Let's see here. Can Congo Tetras live with rams and Apistos? Probably. I've got mine in right now with pork chop Rasboras and angels. They pretty much kind of stay to themselves. They're pretty active. I don't think I would put them in anything less than, I mean, right now we've got them in a 40 breeder. I think that's pushing the lower end of what I would do comfortably. But a 4-foot tank would be even better.
Joaquin, I don't know if you remember me, but a few streams ago, I asked about sparkling gouramis. I got 4 of them. Yay!
Nice.
Are there any tank mates I can have? The tank is 10 gallons. 4 little sparklers in a 10-gallon.
So, yeah, I mean, you've got options, a lot of the Rasboras. So just go back and look at our Rasbora playlist and the Miras. We talked about some Miras, chilies,
CPDs.
Dwarfs.
Remember I kept CPDs and
Yeah.
lamp eye Rasboras.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
We got to get more of those
I
in because
know. I saw them in a little video clip.
lamp eye Rasboras are so cool.
They're so pretty.
Yeah, that's so you got some options there, but really small. Keep the Rasboras tiny, and then you can do 6, 8, 10 of them, something like that. But all those ones we just mentioned would be good. Ram says, which is better to keep, prawns or shrimps? You know what's crazy? I just saw the prawns for the first time in a long time a couple days ago when I was getting fish for the swap. It's kind of cool, but I guess I'm kind of prone to the shrimp. I'm not prone to prawns. I'm more prone to picking the shrimp. That's hard to say. I'm more prone to picking the prawn. No, the shrimp. Just because I like the colors, I like their behavior. I like the fact that you can keep a bunch of them in a tank where the prawns get a little bit larger, a lot larger. So I guess I'm a shrimp. I'm on the side of the shrimp. Barrett says, does a dirty filter mean bad water quality? If you already answered this, sorry, I went to take a shower. I did not answer it already. So does a dirty filter mean bad water quality? No, it just means that the filter caught a lot of stuff. It's doing its job. So what it means is if you've got sand, you've probably got some fish that've got a decent amount of waste and it's getting kicked up into the water column and the filter floss or whatever is catching it. Just if you see that happening, we change out. So in our hang-on back filters, we're changing, and sponge filters, we're cleaning those every single week. Filter floss for us lasts about a week. That's why I've done videos on how to get filter floss cheaply. I don't buy like the cartridges. We just buy it in bulk, cut it up, stick it in there. It's pennies. And when it gets all nasty, we take it out, squeeze it in the sink to get the water out, and the trash it goes. And then we put new stuff in. But no, the way to cut down on that, obviously, if you've got a fish tank with gravel in it and with no plants, gravel vac, that will get a lot of the detritus out and not as much will get caught up in the filter. But yeah, the dirt nastiness of the filter has very little to do with actual water quality, because ammonia and nitrite is your biological filtration is going to take care of that. What's the dirtiness that you're seeing is just stuff that's in the water column.
Jay Oliver's here.
What's up? Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And he's been a member for 9 months.
I know. I just watched one of his videos. You should see the crazy guppies he got.
He's a crazy guppy guy.
Crazy guppies.
That's probably why it says Jay Oliver's Guppies in Aquatics.
I know, but this last bit, beautiful.
Sweet.
Yeah.
He says, hey, fish family, hope everyone is doing well. Cool. Hope you're doing well, too. See you in a few weeks, I hope. You and the family.
Yeah.
Cohen likes fish. Did you know that? We know that now.
Now we know.
Thank you for letting us know. Do
Good
you
place.
know of any reason why my gold gourami is skittish? The only thing I can think of is that I walk by the tank a lot. Some fish are like that. If you watch the Fish Room Tour Part 3 on Friday, I talk about our Viejas and Spilum. These fish are amazing. So just a plug for the video that's coming out on Friday, you are going to see some really cool fish. And these Vieja, they're not small. I mean, at this point, I got a big group of them. There's 9 of them in a 125. They're like this big without fail. Every morning I go to feed them. Now you would think, A, they're fish, B, they're cichlids. They would get it real fast. Dude with no hair on his head puts fish food in water, we should go to the top. No, that's not what their little tiny brains think. Their little tiny brains think, dude walks by tank, something horrible is going to happen. Then he walks away, and when we look up, there's food there, so we'll just hide until scary man walks away. They do this every single time I feed the tank, and I'm not going to lie. I'm hurt. I'm angry.
Yeah.
I have a lot of pent-up feelings.
Sorry, I didn't know it.
Okay, I'm over it. But anyway, it's really frustrating. So your gold gourami, it's just doing a weird thing. It can help sometimes if you have other fish in the tank that are not afraid. They're like, hey, person, hey, dude, what's up? How you doing? How's it going, man? Want to talk? What do you want to do? Want to look at each other strangely? So, and these Vieja, there's electric blue acara in the tank. They're not afraid. They're like, hey, man, we know the dude's got food. We're going to eat first. I got, well, what's left of my roseline sharks, which is one, and they're all fine. But these Vieja, it's been years. I've given up. I'm like, you know what? You guys, go ahead. You freak out. Go into the corner. I'm going to go stand on the other side of the room. I'm still going to look at you. And you're going to be eating. And you're not going to know I'm there. And I'm going to be like total fish stalker from far away. Haha. I had to film it. By the way, when I filmed that tank, I had to put the camera probably 8 or 10 feet away and then zoom in. Because if they saw a camera, they'd probably still be stuck behind a rock. And that was like days ago. So I understand frustration about hiding fish. Anyway, sometimes other fish will help.
Sonny said that 700 people lived. Just so you know, the Titanic.
700? Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's quite a bit.
Half the people survived.
Well, I did not. I don't
There
know
was
if
a
I've ever
decent amount.
researched it.
Mm,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, but yes, I did watch the movie, and I fully expected it to be a horrible movie. I mean, sad because it's a movie about the Titanic.
Cheryl says, my Java fern does great until it doesn't.
Yeah, that pretty much happens to us too. It looks good for a while, and then sometimes it just it does that. Makes
But-
that noise too in the water.
But it does usually give a few babies off, so okay, then you don't lose the plant. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucas says, any suggestions for aquarium heaters and or lighting on a budget? I'm setting up my second tank ever after doing a kit for the first one and thinking about breeding endlers and neocaridina shrimp. So, heaters, let's start there. When we originally set up the fish room, I went with all the Eheim heaters. We still have a few tanks in the fish room where I have backup heaters just in case something ever happens. Some of our Lake Tanganyika fish where if I lost them, I'd be devastated. So it's like, okay, if something ever happens to the temperature of the fish room, I've got heaters in a few tanks. They've worked fine for many, many years. I wouldn't say it's a heater on a budget. The other one I just reviewed not long ago is right back here. That's the Aquarium Co-op heater. I actually like that one quite a bit. It's so funny because when I originally reviewed it, I thought, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a temperature display in there. And I thought that was really going to annoy me. And it turns out, I look at the thing like twice a day, 3 times. Every time I kind of go outside, I'm like, I just want to know what the temperature of the tank is. I'm like, what's it at now? 78. And I've got the thing set at 76. It hardly ever turns on because it's 78 in our house. Up in this room, it's even warmer. So, but I just really like it. It blends in well. And so that would definitely be one to consider. Again, it's not necessarily like, there's no way to do heating on a budget. You just have to buy the heaters. The worst thing you could do with a heater is buy a heater, the cheapest one you can find, have it break, because there are a few things in a tank. The filters and heaters, when they break, fish die. Right? Your light breaks, it's like that's inconvenient. Heaters and filters, when they break, you lose stuff. So that being said, lighting on a budget, there's a million things you can do. I did a full review on light. It's called like Aquarium Lighting Guide 101 or something like that, where I actually took people through the different price points where I start, okay, here's some really cheap, like low cost lighting options. So low cost, you have the Beamswork lights, you have the Night Crew. Beamswork have been hit or miss for us. Some of the sizes didn't last very long. Some of the smaller ones did okay, but they're very, very bright. Night Crew's been pretty decent. I like the adjustability. Most of you know I'm a big fan of just the standard Higer light. I like the Higer light. It's not the one that's on the timer. I mean, that one's fine, but I just like the very simple ones where it's got an on-off button. You can adjust the light intensity and the color spectrum a little bit. And then from there, you can get way more expensive. You can go slightly more expensive, like the Phoenix, something like the Fluval Aqua Sky. Then you can go crazy expensive, which is not what you're looking for. But if you're looking for cheap lights, at least ones that I do like the Higer, just the standard lights without the timer.
You have a member for 10 months who has a question
What?
for you.
10 months?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. Well,
He's
let me
a
scroll. Let me
special
scroll
member.
down and then scroll up. Oh my gosh! Member for 10 months. This guy named Whip. I think he's a new commenter.
I think so.
Yeah, for long time watcher, but he's a first time commenter. What would you do for a Klondike bar? Put them up. Put them up. Let's go. Okay. Did I earn it? Whips World. I get Face Off, but Con Air. I know, dude. Full on. And I'm not talking like a tear. I'm talking about an ugly cry.
It must have really struck a chord.
Ugly cried at the end of Con Air when they crash into Las Vegas or do wherever they crashed into, and they meet again, and she's over there like full on, like that. I'm like talking.
Was that the one with the teddy bear?
Yeah. Should have put, no, the bunny. Put the bunny back in the box. Should have put the bunny back in the box. Lizette, Con Air was dumb. Predictable movie, but I cried too. I liked Con Air. I liked The Rock. Yeah, it was. They were entertaining. I mean, it's Nicolas Cage. You can't expect a lot,
right?
But it was good enough.
Cool. Yeah, he was in a big string of cool movies there.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other. Why were we talking about that the other day?
Well,
somehow we got on a Nicolas Cage conversation because we get into weird, dumb conversations, and I started rattling off like all the Nicolas Cage movies in the '90s that were actually pretty good. So, Con Air, The Rock, Face Off. You cannot forget Gone in 60 Seconds. Earlier, I mean, in the '80s, you had Raising Arizona, but that was way before his streak. And I'm forgetting some now all of a sudden because there were a few others that were pretty popular, fairly watchable. So
with Nicolas Cage, Moonstruck, Moonlighting, Moonstruck, Moonstruck.
No, that was not one of them.
There were some really dumb lines in that movie, though.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about high quality Nicolas Cage, not that. That was low quality even for Nicolas Cage. Silver Creek says Face Off was amazing. Yeah, Face Off. What was the line? I hate to watch you leave, but I love to, or I hate to watch you go, but I love to watch you leave. That's the dumbest line ever. Remember when I used that on you one time?
No. You think you just wanted me to leave.
Me either.
Get out.
Let's see. P.S. Read Stephen King. Now I don't care who you are. Read Stephen King. LOL.
Lynn said, yes, the unsinkable Molly Brown survived Titanic. She was a famous one.
She was the unsinkable Molly Brown, of course. I mean, what did they expect? Mm-hmm. You know, what did that iceberg
Didn't she go over the Niagara Falls, too, in a barrel?
Yeah, but she died. I'm kidding. I don't know anything about it. Matthew says, hi. I hot at the tank the other day, so exited to... How about this? I got the tank the other day, so excited to escape it. I started an aquarium channel too. That's cool. I am only posting shorts every Friday until I get better camera. Chattanooga Ed subscribed. Well, that's pretty sweet.
Aww, cool.
Congratulations. Good luck with everything.
Yeah,
shorts are a good way to get things started. You don't have to plan a whole bunch of stuff. And very nice. Mm-hmm. All right, let me see here. Rolf says, okay, I lied. I have 2 guppies with the rainbow shark. Ooh. That could be a small problem later on when the rainbow shark decides to be a rainbow shark. And when rainbow sharks decide to be rainbow sharks, that usually means anything less aggressive and smaller ceases to exist. But you never know. Filigree Aquatics, are you keeping all 9 Vieja in the 125? Right now I am. So, interesting story about those. I actually got the 9 as not fry, but very small juveniles. Grew them up in like a 10-gallon for a while, and then I moved them to the 125. But they came from a guy in a fish club who had a 120. In fact, I did a fish room tour. It's Jason's Fish Room. And I think the first tank I show, it was the parents were all in a 120. They got along their whole lives in that 120 without any issues. I have not found them, at least so far, to be aggressive at all. I mean, there isn't. You watch the video that comes out on Friday. I don't think there is a torn fin, rip scale on any of them so far. Obviously, when they get larger, we may have to think about moving fish around, or possibly I might have to bring some of the larger Vieja to a swap. But for right now, based on their size and the fact that they are almost never aggressive with one another, at least not that I've seen, they're going to stay for a little while still. Let me see. Marco says, what's the best way to filter a 180-gallon without breaking the bank? All right, so it depends on what you want your tank to look like. It depends on what your inhabitants are going to be, how heavily stocked the tank is. The cheapest way is sponge filters. You could put 4 big sponge filters in that tank. You could put 2 big sponge filters in that tank, and probably no matter how you stock it, have more than enough biological filtration for the inhabitants. The problem is going to be mechanical filtration. What do you want the tank to look like? You want stuff to be sucked out of the water, and sponge filters are not going to do that. Even if you put 4 of them in the tank, that's probably not going to work unless that 180 is like this ultra highly aquascaped, very small nano fish sort of thing that's understocked. Yeah, then your sponge filters are fine. Next, we have the hang-on back filters. My personal go-to, even for a 180, I think, knowing my personal preferences, I would do hang-on backs. I'd probably do 3 of them. I probably have, what would I do? Maybe 3 Seachem Tidal 110s, or if I want to switch it up, I'll put 1 Seachem Tidal 110 and a couple of Marineland Pro 450s on either side of it. I mentioned those filters because I really, really, really like the internal motors because they're self-priming. If there's a power blip, if anything happens, you don't have to worry about the back of the filters being filled. They just start going again. I also like the really highly adjustable flow on both of them. So I would do that only because I despise, with all of my heart and being, maintaining canister filters. I hate them because of that. They, obviously, that's another thing you could do with the 180 is, you throw a big FX6 on there and let that bad boy go. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's going to do a wonderful job. It's going to have a big old compartment for lots of filtration of all types. The problem is, who the heck loves busting open an FX6 to clean that bad boy out? I would just like to know. I honestly want to know. Leave in the chat if you enjoy cleaning a canister filter. If it's something like, oh, sweet, today is canister filter cleaning day. I hate it. And I mean, this is my least favorite thing to do in all the aquarium hobby. I'm going to state that for the record. My least favorite thing to do in all of aquarium keeping is busting open that canister filter, cleaning out the stuff, putting it all back together, getting the stupid thing to flow again. Where I hang on back, unplug the 3 plugs in if I had a 180, take out the filter floss, put the new filter floss in, fill up the tank, plug them all back in, done. It took me 5 seconds. So that, and it's now 3 hang-on back filters are not necessarily going to be a whole lot cheaper than, well, they might still be cheaper than an FX6. And the nice thing is you're going to get 3 different filters. You're going to have some redundancy, some backup. You don't have to look at sponge filters that way. So that's just how I would roll. I know a lot of people disagree. And some people would say the sump. Sump's not bad, but then you've got to have a drilled tank. But if you're getting a 180 that's already, you haven't bought it yet, and you're like, you know what, I can get this thing and it's already drilled and I just have to plumb the sump, that could be really cool because actually those aren't horrible to maintain. And because maybe if you've got the filter sock and most of the stuff's getting caught up there, you're changing that thing out. I know people who've got filter socks where they can just rinse them, throw them in the wash, put them back, and then all the rest of your media is fine. You can grow plants down there. You can put a light down there. I've seen some really elaborate sump systems. So that could be good. Not necessary, but certainly a possibility. What do you have over there?
Well, Alice wants to know, she's got an Odo that won't eat algae wafers. Any other suggestions? I'm worried if I do veggies, it might go off before I can feed it all, and not sure if the nutrients are enough. Little Odo won't eat.
So little Odo won't eat. Well, okay, so there's a couple things here. One, what kind of veggie wafers are you using? So I did this in the algae wafer video where we actually looked at some of the ingredients list of some of the algae wafers. They tend a lot of times to be mostly just green colored fish food. So that could be part of it. So we feed the Northfin kelp wafers. We've fed Northfin kelp flakes. Haven't had a fish really that normally likes plant-based materials ignore that food. They generally go after it. So you could try that. The other thing you could do, you could do the vegetables, just do it in smaller concentrations or smaller amounts until you're sure that the fish are going to eat it. What else could we do with that? Those are really the 2 main things. Try those and see what happens, and just make sure your Odo's not sick. Like if it's brand new, sometimes they just don't adjust well to new tanks. We were talking earlier about guppies and bettas as fish that sometimes you have to be a little bit careful about. I would say the other ones, some of the neons, sometimes I always hear, oh my gosh, I got a dozen neons and half of them are dead. What did I do? Probably nothing. As someone who has brought in massive groups of neons in the past, I've brought in 500-600 neons at a time. lose 150, 200, and like, yeah, and the rest of them were fine. But I lost a fair number, and it's like, okay, it happens. Sometimes that's just what that fish does. Otos, at least for us, especially in our water, we don't even bother with them because they just don't work very well. So, but try that. Hopefully it works out fine. Leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, that was a Nicolas Cage one. That one, it was intense, and that one depressed me too much. I couldn't, I watched it, but that's not one I would watch again because, like you said, it was intense, and it was just, I don't like leaving a movie and feeling disturbed, right? I think that one, and what was the other one I said I absolutely would never, it was the thing on Netflix. It was a scary thing. American Horror Story.
Yuck.
I watched a few episodes of that. I'm like, no, this is well beyond. This is not a horror series or a horror movie or anything like that. That one just disturbed me to a point where like I can't do this. Robert said, what would your Tetra of choice be with your hard water, with a 210 gallon, wow, and clown loaches as their tank mates? Has overflows, so nothing too small. Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to do anything crazy small because those clown loaches are going to get big. Not that they like hunt fish, but fish are fish. Anytime they can be like, hey, this is a really small fish and it fits nicely in my mouth, I'm going to go ahead and eat it. But a 210. Tetra of choice in a 210. This is a good one. I need to think for a second. All right. Black Phantoms are my favorite Tetra that's common. So I love the Black Phantom Tetra. Amazingly, I don't have any in the fish room right now, but I think that's probably my favorite. That would look cool in a 210. I'd throw like 50 of them in there. You're going to see in part 5 of this fish room tour is going to wind up being 6 parts, but in part 5, there is a relatively rare Tetra that I absolutely love that I got. It's called an Mzuel. So letter M and then Z-U-E-L, Tetra. That thing, they are very expensive fish. I mean, retail, you can easily expect to pay $20, $25 a piece for them. So you could rack up a huge fish bill in a hurry getting a big group of those. But those fish are absolutely stunning. And they're sizable enough where even full-grown clown loaches, not that, again, clown loaches are not sitting there hunting fish, but you just never know with fish sometimes. Like, I mean, small Rasboras, those are out. Obviously, you said you've got the overflows anyway. What else? The Emperor Tetras we've mentioned. That might be cool. I would, in addition to Tetras, you can consider, like I said, those snakeskin barbs. Where do you see the snakeskin barbs? Monday. In that fish room tour. Those things are really awesome. Don't forget about the smaller rainbows. So you've got the Celebes rainbow. That is absolutely stunning. What's the... Oh, crud. I had it and I lost it. The rainbow that's got those long... The yellow one with the blue eyes. With the fins that stick out. They're black.
Blue-eyed rainbows?
No. There's a name, obviously.
Feather fins?
There's a featherfin rainbow, but it has a... I can't remember the scientific name, but it looks somewhat like a Celebes, but those smaller rainbows are ridiculously phenomenal, and they would be not huge, right? So they would be about the size of length of a maybe like a Buenos Aires or something like that, lengthwise, skinnier though, and really fast. Dwarf rainbows. I know you asked about Tetras, but just give you some other options too, because you mentioned the pH situation. So like with our pH, if yours is similar to mine with that pH of around 8, I'm not doing cardinal Tetras. They're not going to last. Neon Tetras can be hit or miss. I usually lose a decent number, and then the ones that survive live forever. Black neons, but those neons are probably smaller than what you want because you said nothing small anyway. But trying to think of fish that are going to be water parameters like mine that are a little bit bigger. So the Mzuel, crazy awesome. Black Phantom Tetras. The red Phantom Tetra, again, rare, a little bit harder to find. And check out those smaller rainbows, the dwarf rainbows, the Celebes rainbows, and the threadfin, which is a different name than Celebes. I can't remember what it is. Really fantastic.
Oinkmaster says, am I doing something right that the Java fern I have floating in the tank is actually doing well? I'm a first-time Java fern plant mom. I've had it now since April, and it's doing okay.
That's sweet.
Yes, you are doing something right.
Yeah.
If it's happy and floating, you're good.
Pretty sweet. Keep it good luck. Keep on keeping on there. Holy cow. It's a heck of a lot later than I thought it was. We're
wow.
past our normal.
Oh my goodness.
Somewhat. Heavens to Betsy.
Oh.
We are getting past the time for us to all go night-night, right? Especially all you over the seas people and East Coast up late people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're gonna call it an evening here because it has gotten a little bit later. Definitely appreciate you being here. A lot of good questions. Again, write them down, bring them for next week because we'll be back same time, same place. Thank you for everybody with the super chats and the members and all of our moderators holding down the fort. We've got a great group here. Really look forward to our Wednesdays together. So have a great rest of the week. We will definitely see you next Wednesday. Hope to see you there. And we will see you in a week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And